Welcome back. Too much frozen chicken with nowhere to go. This was the challenge faced by Astral Foods with restaurants closed during the hard lockdown. Trading conditions reflected a distinct difference between the two halves of Astral's financial year. And joining us to unpack the results is Schutte, the CEO of Astral Foods. Chris, I know we were talking before the show began, but I think a lot of people would appreciate knowing about your state of health and how you are doing after the motorcycle accident earlier this year, and also after you did contract COVID-19 and look fully recovered, however, now at this stage.
Yeah, Fifi, I'm not sure what was worse, my personal state of health or the economy, but I'm doing fine, thank you. We survived the COVID and were never hospitalized, and then with the accident, obviously now about 8 weeks later, in the process of recovery, but still a way to go. But thank you for taking interest.
Thanks, Chris. I mean, you have been a fighter, as is or has been reflected in the sector's position over the recent while. It has been under pressure for a long time, even before COVID. But I need to ask about the impact that COVID-19 has had on your business. What has been the most difficult thing about managing the virus so far? And would you say that the worst is over for the group as we do speak 2 months after your year end now in November?
Fifi, it's a comprehensive question. Obviously, it was foreign to all of us, this COVID international lockdown. And right in the beginning, we had to make sure that we have enough of everything from an input point of view that we buy internationally, like some of the raw materials, like equipment. We've done well on that. And as we say, we were fortunate that our business continued to run like a Swiss clock, and we are very fortunate with the commitment of our staff and management during this period. But then there were direct and indirect costs, and the direct cost added up to about 42 million rand for the group. That's your protective clothing and all the protocols in your abattoirs and the feed mills. Not that it's foreign to us, but it came at a quite substantial price tag this time. And then the indirect cost is one of those things difficult to quantify. We did our own sum, and that indirect, we talk about the QSR market in the country closing down overnight. And that supplies about 20% of all locally produced chicken to the consumer. Now imagine if 20% of all chicken, and we produce approximately 20 million chickens per week in South Africa, if 20% of that has got no home. So there's a spillover first into the fresh market. Up till that's reached saturation point, then the only place to go is to go into the frozen part of that. So you freeze your chicken, then you build up stock because you don't have sales deals on the table, and then of course you start to discount to get rid of stock. And that's what happened in the second half to Astral. We are not a extremely big player in the QSR market, but our competitors are, and they had nowhere to go with their chicken, and eventually that filtered through to our markets. We had to build stock, we had to discount to get rid of the chicken, obviously in the favor of the consumer. And now we're at a point where stock levels are better balanced, and maybe we can try to pass on some of the extensive feed input cost over the next couple of weeks to the market. We are still lagging last year's pricing. So chicken, a good value proposition, and we're way behind the food consumer price index. So chicken remains the best value proposition to South Africans.
Chris, the situation with imports, what's the latest there? And I'm wondering to what degree the hard lockdowns that did cause so much disruption to supply potentially favored the poultry industry, in the sense that those imports that have been a problem couldn't get in.
Well, Fifi, it actually quite the opposite happened. We had a hike in import tariffs that was afforded to us by Minister Patel with a hike from 37 to 62%. But unfortunately, that has not curbed the high levels of imports. Year on year, if we make a comparison in line with our reporting period, imports were down only by 10%. Imports still make up 27% of our local consumption, and it's still a major, imports alone is bigger than Astral as a total. So it is a major competitor. We believe it's largely dumping from South America, and we're going to have to address that because the higher import tariff announced by the minister in March that came into play were not effective, and we warned against that. We applied for the 82% import tariff to try and curb classic dumping. That was not afforded to us, and hence the imports still at a high level. So we're going to have to go back and re-look and ask for an anti-dumping tariff because there's enough evidence that it's classic dumping.
All right, all right. So we'll follow that story. But Chris, just a final question. You have paid a dividend at a time where many companies have closed the taps on dividend because, you know, they're not quite sure how the dust of COVID-19 will settle. That signals that you're quite confident in Astral's current financial position and possibly even future financial position. So just paint a picture of that future. What should your shareholders look forward to in the period ahead?
Well, obviously, we can talk from different angles. The next 6 months will be tough because of input cost and the disposable income of consumers under pressure. But on the other hand, Astral has always had a strong balance sheet. We stay away from debt. We haven't been financially geared over the past 4 or 5 years, and that's the position we want to be in. So strong cash flows, very good cost control in the group, and that dividend that we declared at a 1.2 cover is a sign to our shareholders and investors that we have a strong balance sheet. We will keep on managing that in line with our strategy, and if everything plans out, we will remain a strong payer of dividends in the future. We had huge capital programs over the past 2 years. That is now off the table. So we're in a good position to retain our 2 times cover strategy to our investors and shareholders.
All right. Chris, we are out of time. We'll leave it there. Thanks so much for joining the show. Look forward to seeing you again in person. That's Chris Schutte, who is the CEO of Astral Foods, sounding quite confident about the road ahead, notwithstanding its challenges. Of course, saying that the industry is going to apply for more protection from dumping, and certainly something that we need to be looking out for to see how government does intervene on that front. But that is where we leave it for Closing Bar South Africa for today. Thanks so much.